It seems like it's been a fair while since we got a decent list of DLC announcements for Train Sim World 4, and here are my 2 cents on what Dovetail Games talked about in their recent Dovetail Direct livestream. I don't care to watch the livestreams myself, and instead, I just wait until they post about the add-ons on Facebook after the stream. I think some of these add-ons are good, some are middle of the road, without referencing the Pretenders, and in some cases I ask myself, what the hell are they thinking? Looking at you, Skyhook. I won't be discussing Dovetail's Rosenheim to Salzburg route because, even though it's a cross-border one with a part in Germany and a part in Austria, I have absolutely no interest in it, and I doubt I'll ever pick it up. Just my luck, and this route will include a locomotive I've wanted to see in TSW for ages, the Deutsche Bahn BR111, but I don't buy a route just for the rolling stock. And I won't be discussing Simtrack's Class 104 and Peak Forest expansion pack either, simply because we've already known about it for a fair while now. And now that I think about it, screw Skyhook and their pathetic Cargo Line Volume 2 pack, that pointless cash grab is not worth my time. I have very mixed thoughts on the Gospel Oak to Barking Riverside line coming to TSW. On one hand, I'm excited to see the London Overground and Class 710 finally come to the game, because I generally like modern image commuter routes. And I've always been intrigued by the big swanky modern station at Barking Riverside. It's a very recent addition to the route, opening in July 2022. But on the other hand, I'm sick of seeing Dovetail always make these kinds of bland, short, and linear routes that only ever include one locomotive, or, in this case, multiple units. It doesn't help that the 710 is part of an otherwise very bland family of trains, namely the Bombardier Aventura series, which also includes the Class 345 on Crossrail, Class 701 on South Western Railway, Class 730 on West Midlands trains, and Class 720 on C2C and Greater Anglia. And I have a feeling that the 710 will be yet another train that's too easy to drive, thus eliminating any real challenge. If Dovetail had to make an Aventura, I would rather have the Greater Anglia Class 720 on a route like London-Liverpool Street to Southend Victoria, plus the branch from Wickford to Southminster. And Gospel Oak to Barking Riverside was such a simple choice on Dovetail's part that it's borderline insulting. Personally, I think that, instead of Gospel Oak to Barking Riverside, they should have made Highbury and Islington to West Croydon, plus the 3 branch lines to New Cross, Crystal Palace, and Clapham Junction. Such a route would require the inclusion of the Class 378 instead of the 710. We finally got confirmation on what the next American route is going to be. The 57-mile long commuter line from Los Angeles to San Bernardino. Because of course we need yet another route that's based in California. It's not like there are loads of potential routes out in other states, such as Alaska, Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas, that would be a damn sight more interesting. I suppose one good thing about it is that it'll link up with Cajon Pass, the San Bernardino to Barstow route, although I'd be surprised if anyone still cares for that route at this point. I certainly don't. To be clear, Antelope Valley, Cajon Pass, and the San Bernardino line will not be combined as one big non-linear route. You'll still have to return to the main menu in order to change routes. Dovetail is going to include a long overdue Metrolink reskin for the MPI MP36PH-3C. We already have the Caltrain variant of this locomotive in TSW. Seems like they're not bothering to include any other form of motive power. Talk about a missed opportunity to add the EMD F59PH. And I suspect that the F125 and Hyundai Rotem coaches from the Antelope Valley line add-on will layer onto the San Bernardino line as well. Personally, I always thought that San Bernardino would have been a better choice than the Antelope Valley line, because it actually has a somewhat busy schedule with 18 trains a day in each direction, as opposed to only 11. So why they've made both routes instead of only doing San Bernardino is anyone's guess. Oh, and don't get me started on the lack of the arrow extension from San Bernardino to Redlands, which uses 2-car Stadler Flirt DMUs. Talk about another missed opportunity. The Semmeringbahn is a famous line in Austria, and I'm looking forward to seeing it since the TSW version will be longer than the original TS Classic version. That one was released in December 2015, and only went from Mürzzsuchlag to Glognitz, a distance of only 41 kilometers. But this remake continues past Glognitz and onto Wiener Neustadt, wherever that is, for a total length of 68 kilometers. Although, granted, that is still not an especially long route. This line is famous for the spectacular mountainous terrain through which it runs, and in a way, it's like the Austrian equivalent of New Zealand's Christchurch to Greymouth line, although the Midland line is not electrified anymore. As I don't have time to go into an explanation on the history of this line, I'll refer you to the Tim Traveller's video on the subject instead. It looks like the TSW version will include the same rolling stock as the original, namely the Österreichische Bundesbahnen Class 1116 Taurus electric locomotive and Eurofema coaches. I saw in a preview screenshot that the Talent 1 EMU, from the lousy S-Bahn-Vorarlberg route, will also layer onto the Semmeringbahn. Do those units run on the line in real life? I'm not sure. The Taurus looks very similar, if not identical, to the Deutsche Bahn BR182, which we've already had in TSW since April 2019, and I suspect that no changes will be made to the sounds as a result of that similarity. On the initial Facebook post, DTG said that this is the world's first true mountain railway. I can't verify the credibility of that statement, but it did remind me of the glaring lack of anything like Ski Tube in Australia or the Snowdon Mountain Railway in Wales. You know, real mountain railways with a rack rail. I don't mean to discredit the Semmeringbahn, since it is a very scenic route, but I would still prefer to have lines like Ski Tube and the Snowdon Mountain Railway, instead of yet another run-of-the-mill standard gauge line. To be honest, I don't have high hopes for this new route that Rivet Games have announced, considering their track record of really poor quality add-ons. The next one they're making is the Fife Circle line, going from Edinburgh Waverley to Markinch via Dunfermline and Kirkcaldy. I don't know the route very well, apart from the fact that it goes across the iconic 4th rail bridge, so at least we've got that to look forward to. I heard that the devs apparently mentioned the Class 170 Turbostar during the livestream, saying that it will be included with the Fife Circle. A 170 would be very interesting to see in TSW, provided that Rivet doesn't screw it up. There was also a teaser for a ScotRail variant of the Class 158 Sprinter, and we already have a 158 with the Midland mainline route. But as far as I can tell, this 158 reskin will be sold separately. Of course. And personally, I would have preferred to see a Class 68 diesel locomotive with Mark II coaches instead of the 158. And one last thing about the rolling stock. I want to see the LNER Class 801, from the ECML Peterborough to Doncaster add-on, running AI-only services through Edinburgh Waverley in timetable mode, since it'll help to make the route feel just that little bit more realistic. Fife Circle is an interesting route choice, I'll give them that, even though there's already a Fife Circle route in TS Classic. But I'm still very sceptical on how it'll turn out, based on the shoddy West Cornwall Local, Arosa line, and other previous Rivet products. I don't know whether or not I'll get the Fife Circle route, and even if I do, it'll probably be just for a review. I'm excited for the Tadami line, even though we've already got it in TS Classic. Train Sim World is long overdue for a Japanese route, or any Asian route for that matter, and another reason why this is such a significant announcement is because it's the first 3-foot 6-inch gauge route in TSW. And speaking of 3-foot 6-inch gauge, are we ever going to see New Zealand routes in the game? This will be Union Workshop's first Train Sim World add-on, and that developer is known for the Japanese add-ons they've made in TS Classic. At the time of uploading, we don't know what kind of motive power will be included, but I know that it will be some sort of diesel unit because the Tadami line isn't electrified. The original TS Classic version includes the Kiha 40 diesel railcar, and it would be nice if we could get this thing in TSW as well. I don't know too much about the line itself, but I do know that it runs for a distance of 88 kilometers, or 54 miles, from Aizu-Wakamatsu to Tadami. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing those names, as I am not familiar with the Japanese language. It's interesting to note that, out of all the routes that Dovetail announced on February's Dovetail Direct, most of them are remakes of routes that already exist in TS Classic. The only exception is Metrolink's San Bernardino line. The only newcomers that I find truly interesting are the Semmeringbahn and the Tadami line. All the others are just okay or unnecessary, and San Bernardino is a bit of both. It's almost as if Dovetail are still hell-bent on ignoring community suggestions and insisting on very simple and surface-level route choices. They're clearly exploiting their lack of competition, and it's almost as if they're actively trying to run their own business into the ground. But what are your thoughts on these new DLC announcements? Feel free to let me know in the comments. And I don't mind if you disagree with my opinions, provided that you don't resort to personal insults as an alternative to intelligent and constructive criticism. I like to think that my viewers are better than that.